Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's grand podcast. That almost sounded like I was excited. It's a weekly podcast on the state of the world. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
And this week we're going to do some more leftist, hand-wringing, whinging and complaining, and trying to figure out where it all went wrong and how we're going to do anything about any of this.
Yes. It's tricky not to feel like it's a bit of a... not to resign oneself to the situation. Frankly. I feel like I still think that, you know, as long as the only thing we don't have time to fuck about with is the climate catastrophe.
Yeah,
Sorry, Auntie Annette.
Forget about it. It's all about getting Brexit done now. Then in 10 years, once we got Brexit done, then we'll be like, okay, let's move on to climate catastrophe. Right. It seems like we need some sort of like global consensus, or certainly like in the sort of neighbouring countries consensus. Now, how are we going to achieve that? Some sort of union. And then it'll all be over.
It became over. We did try. It is hard not to want to shout at people about the environment when you drive through the south of England and it's all like underwater, which is how we left. When we left, the M23 out of Brighton was closed due to flooding, so we had to go. Thanks to our overlords Google for being aware of that and redirecting us on a different path. But
real problems. We're going to talk about what I think if we can start to figure out what we actually can control, because there is no point getting upset about things we can't control, and I cannot control Boris Johnson or the sun, or either kinds of the sun. But what maybe we can control are relationships with people with mostly similar views to us.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what I'm interested to see, like in the darkest thinkings, are things like, you know, how does the, you know, I understand that a great deal of the NHS has already been privatised, but I wonder how the steps towards how they're going to slowly boil us in water will be. Like visiting a GP is suddenly £5. Oh, £5 isn't much. Let's just pay it, and then it'll be. Then it'll all slowly dial up, and we'll be in a situation where if you haven't got money, you don't get to live. These are some of my darkest thoughts. Weirdly, the world situation I find less. I find it more easy to deal with than my sibling situation. I'm having a bit of an issue with one of my siblings, which is making life a little bit harder to deal with for me.
There are probably some allegories, aren't there? Like the closer you are to someone, the more you know them, the more you've got in common. In a way, we really get obsessed over the little things sometimes. But what does it take to make everyone join together as a family? And you need a sort of some sort of squid invasion. By the way, have you seen Watchmen? Because it's very good.
No,
I've
been trying to work out what of the many things I subscribe to I can watch it on.
And Now TV, if anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Too good. Well, it's very good. It's surprising and much more in spirit of the graphic novel than the film was.
I'll tell you one thing that I have stumbled upon. I stumbled upon last night. I literally Googled what shall I watch tonight or something, and then there was that website, what movie shall I watch? Is it what movie shall I watch tonight, maybe? .com,
yeah.
And watched something called, like, I've had enough of this world and I don't belong here anymore, or something, which is kind of a
Netflix.
Dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that. It's got someone, it's got like, what's his face in it, hasn't it? Hobbit Man. Yeah.
Is that who it was?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I recognise him now, but I didn't think of it. It was one of those films I didn't really watch in that, what have they been in mode. I just watched. I had no we were just like, oh, that looks good, click, because we brought our projector screen and our projector with us, so we can actually watch movies.
There's still music playing under this. All right, let's let the music swell, and then we'll start talking. Have you watched anything good recently? No, I don't know.
I also watched Titans. Mm. Nick's not convinced.
Titans? No, I've not heard of that. Sounds rubbish.
It's another
already.
one of those Marvel
Titans.
jobbies. Titans. It is Titans. Yes, it's Titans. Netflix again.
I've not seen that one. Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, it's DC. So I mean, like, come on, get your facts straight.
Sorry. It's about comic people.
There was a very big schism between those two worlds again.
Oh no!
People that like comics, for some reason, have polarised into very opinionated factions that which comic is the right one to like and which one is bad. So, like, anything you do, to the outside, it's just like, oh, those nerds like comic book movies, and then from the inside, it's like, you, Batman versus Superman is one of the most horrific cinematic experiences. Do not compare it to the genius of what Marvel's cinematic universe managed to achieve and set the standard for the industry by having some sort of creative sort of coherence and vision.
So is there any hope for humanity, given that give us anything to argue about and we will argue about it?
We will just infight. Christians will splinter into Christians that don't think priests should be creepy celibate guys. They think they should get married, which I think is probably quite good. It's like you dig into the detail of anything and you start to disagree with things. I want to tell a story, a beautiful story.
Oh, come on.
I need to find out the year. Ruby on Rails.
Oh, yeah.
It's an open source framework for creating websites that was first released in 2005, the end of 2005, 2006. And it was a very opinionated but powerful platform, and lots of developers sort of jumped on it and got excited about it at the time because it was a really brilliant alternative. It was like socialism to Microsoft's fascism. I don't know, like it was sort of like, oh, this is something that has come from the ground up, it's nicely designed, and it's kind of like a breath of fresh air after everything we've been used to. As with any open source thing, like a couple of years went by and then it had some problems, and then someone goes away and creates their own framework, which is similar. It's in the same programming language, but it sort of takes a slightly different approach because they're like, oh, we believe that we don't want to sacrifice performance for the sort of developer joy. We think we can have both, but like we want to kind of like optimize it, whereas the creator of Rails wasn't really interested in sort of optimizing performance because he just thought that it being pleasant to work with was the most important thing. So this schism started to widen in the Ruby community, and usually what happens is, like we've seen in open source, that these just become, you get one schism and then you get another one and another one, and each one fractures down into smaller and smaller, more and more half-baked ideas of what it should be because people just cannot get over their objection to some design decision. But what the Ruby on Rails and MERB is this other framework community did was they sat down in a room and they worked out their differences, and they realized that ultimately they did all want the same thing. So they made a big announcement where they said, no, we're actually merging the great stuff from MERB into Rails. We're rebuilding Ruby on Rails so to use these principles of performance and things from this other framework, and we're going to join forces, and it's going to be Ruby on Rails, and it's just going to be brilliant now. And we're going to take into account all of those sort of objections. And Ruby on Rails is still going to this day, and I thought that was a wonderful parable of a community that could just as easily have fractured into sort of tiny micro communities, talking to each other and realizing that they were better together.
So how did this come about, the sitting down?
That is a very good question.
Was there some leadership involved, perhaps?
Well, one of the great things about Ruby on Rails was always that it had this really strong leadership, which is actually relatively unusual in the open source community, because people they have this sort of technical opinions and this kind of thing. But in terms of, we saw it in Mark Shuttleworth. He wasn't a great leader for an open source community. No. Sort of superficially, maybe a little bit, but when it came to the day-to-day, it was just no good. But I don't know how he did it. It was just very charismatic, this David Heinemeier Hansson. And I guess they were both thoughtful. They were opinionated, but I don't know. I think it might have just been a perfect storm of people that were actually prepared to listen to each other.
That is a good story. It reminds me of this movie we watched the other night called Klaus. That's also it's obviously a Christmassy type film. It's you should watch it. It's nice. They all live happily ever after because one selfless act invites another. Was the theory behind this film. I've been noticing a lot more the sort of educational thread or the moral of the story a lot more, because I'm watching stories with my child, and so I'm sort of questioning a bit more what she's watching. But Klaus was very nice. It was again this Posty moves to a village that is divided down the middle, and everyone's always fighting each other. And then they all get glued together through the magic of Christmas and giving presents to each other.
Do you know? Like, I've seen my 3-year-old niece. It's amazing how much indoctrination it takes to get someone into that kind of like, I want presents attitude. Surprising amount. She's a bit overwhelmed because she just had her birthday in December and now she's got Christmas as well. I noticed that it doesn't seem to come that naturally, and you probably know this as well, this idea that I'm going to get loads of presents from Santa. And actually, like, my poor little niece was like crying that she wouldn't go to sleep because she was scared that Santa was going to come into her room. She's like, I don't want Santa to come into my room. And lots of bargaining had to be done. But then I heard her through the wall in the morning as she was shown the stocking that had been delivered, and she was like, and just like, she sort of like disbelief that she was getting all this stuff.
It's so overwhelming. Yeah. I think it's actually, some of it is quite cruel. Because so first of all, my daughter had the experience of the elf on the shelf at somebody's house. Have you encountered the elf on the shelf?
No.
It's an elf that Santa sends ahead of Christmas. Comes with a book, and it's watching you.
Oh, cool.
And when you wake up in the morning, it's in a different place in the house. Now, her English nursery had one, but I don't think it had registered really. I mean, she doesn't give a stuff about the elf on the shelf. And then she went for a sleepover at someone's house, and they'd got an elf on the shelf. And she was totally freaked out. And the father had to promise to lock the elf in a cupboard to make sure that it didn't come into the bedroom at night, because she didn't want an elf creeping around in the bedroom while she was asleep. I mean, I think that's a perfectly reasonable
all
response.
Understandable human reactions, and it's just such a shame that we like. It just reminds me of the alcohol thing. You're sort of indoctrinated into alcohol, and it's like to indoctrinate people into sort of materialism at a young age.
It feels absolutely
a bit irresponsible.
On our family secret Santa, my brother, he brought her. So we had a fake Christmas, we call it, on the 13th, and my brother had brought her actual Christmas present, but he'd also wrapped up a couple of Satsumas as a trick first present, which one could argue is quite cruel. But when she unwrapped it, she went, "Oh, Satsuma's my favourite." And then he was like, "Oh," so she passed the materialism test.
Yeah.
But the thing about Christmas Day, we bought her a thing, like a little thing that we'd seen she likes gardening with me, so I brought her some secondhand little children's gardening set. So it had gloves and a trowel and a little bucket and stuff. She's delighted. But we said Father Christmas had brought it, and but she just had too many things. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, she was totally kind of, you couldn't talk to her. So I've squirreled most of it. I've hidden now because there's just no point. And now she's quite happily. One thing I have cracked is Lego.
Yeah.
Or Disney Princess Lego.
Okay.
So now she plays with Lego because she's made lots of castles, and there's a Cinderella and a Rapunzel and a Elsa and a fire engine and a fireman and an ogre. So, but they're all mixed in together, and but that's taken me. But now she's like, "Come on, mummy, we need to do a story." So that sort of stuff. But it's just too much. Yeah, and you do have to teach them.
Yeah, they're not naturally. What I think we didn't do, I think my house didn't do, and I wish sort of my little niece maybe had been brought into that a bit more, is if it at least was made about the giving of presents more than the receiving of presents. And because we didn't even put out milk and biscuit cookies or whatever for Santa or anything. So it's sort of I feel like it would be nicer to focus on the giving and less on the receiving, but it seems like all we did was the receiving. And actually our house after there's 5 children kicking around, so to speak, I just felt there was no clear surface in the whole. I kind of moved, took the camera through the house and sent it to Sharon, and she just replied that it was hoarders. Just looks like one of those hoarders shows on TV, because everything is just a pile of objects, and
but
a bit intense, really.
Our lot did. My family aren't big on all the presents. Nick's dad gave some money for her, and then we went out and we bought. I did a thing where on the labels I put Granddad wrote to Santa and said that you might like this, because we bought her something from Nick's dad, and so she sort of there was this more of it was in cahoots with, and then but I think it's a funny. Anyway, she had a lovely day, and we let it all be about her. And we played Lego, and we dressed up as Rapunzel, and we did our Elsa hair, and it was totally her a day for her to play with these things. But to give her as a 4-year-old, all she really wanted was a Rapunzel dress. And she's consistently asked that since her little mate that came on a play date, he had a Rapunzel dress, and she was like, I want one. He said, well, why don't you ask Father Christmas? And she was like, genius, I'll do that. So she's been very consistent on that. I want a Rapunzel dress for Christmas. So my mum found her a secondhand one on eBay. And so, again, we did Granny wrote to Santa, and Santa said that you might like this.
I don't really understand this attributing these gifts to Santa, because, again, I think that kind of takes the wind out of the whole it's about giving thing that I think would make it a bit of a more positive thing. It's why is Santa doing all this? Well,
she was very concerned that Nick and I didn't have any presents.
Yeah.
Because if Nick's mum does like shopping, and she does like to, that's how she expresses love, through gift giving, is the most positive way to view it. So she bought us a couple of T-shirts each, and so my daughter's very concerned that we only had one thing, and how, we were so she was aware of us receiving. But you kind of, there is a bit of magic to this magical creature. We managed to maintain the myth of Father Christmas to my sister for years, because she came home from school as, 7, 8-year-old going. And it is kind of nice to have, and we did leave out the mince pie and the carrot and the milk and all that business.
Maybe it's like an abstract interface to the materialism. If you don't, because the problem is in our house, it's like Santa gives you a stocking. So this is independent, decoupled from the sibling to sibling gifting. Right. And parent to sibling. And so you get this, when there's 9 of us, you get this kind of web of one present to each person, one from each person, one. So it's kind of in programming terms, if you abstracted that into Santa, and then 1 or 2 or 3 siblings you could coordinate into what came through Santa.
Yeah.
And then it could be a more manageable number of presents, ultimately, because you didn't have to kind of have this total coverage of every single node needs to be connected to every single other node with the same strength. I'm really geeking out in this explanation.
Family Secret Santa worked quite well, I have to say. I'm not very good at, anyone knows me knows I'm not very good at buying presents. It's not it's not what I do. but I also sometimes even receiving presents, I find it very uncomfortable. And it's like somebody said to me, like, I don't really like presents. Like, they're always disappointing, and there is a bit of like, I mean, it's not true that they're always disappointing. I've had some wonderful ones, but it freaks me out.
It's like, oh well, now there's this book I've got to read. Now there's this thing I've got to plant in the garden. When am I going to do that now? You know, like you sort of, now I've got to make this biscuit. But even then, like, at least it's when it's like, especially if you've been through that Marie Kondo thing of like, okay, anything that doesn't spark joy, I'm going to get rid of, and then you remember that, like, you just discover that a lot of that stuff is gifts that you were holding on to because they were a gift, and it's like, yeah, but I got no use for this object, and it was given to me as part of this kind of understanding that we all have, that we have to exchange a certain number of presents. But our next door neighbour who lives downstairs, they're downstairs, we're upstairs. Sharon put out a present for them, which she always does. Even though this guy's a bit of a dick. It's just been sat there. They appear to be refusing to accept it.
Really?
Yep. And so I stuck a post-it note on, like, wrote, 81, Happy Christmas. And went away, came back. A few days later, it's still sat there on the skirting board. They're in, yeah. The light was on yesterday when I came back. It's just like, I mean, you have to be some kind of arsehole to not accept a present, don't you?
That is arseholery.
Next level arseholery.
Really is.
So, and it's like, it might feel like you're being given a sort of like this reciprocal, an obligation. Yeah, you're being given this obligation, so it's like, why are you making me obliged?
Yeah.
But it's like, what else are we going to do?
Yeah, I think it's very... My one thing I've enjoyed coming back here, so we arrived the day before Christmas Eve, or maybe the day before that, and this is a small place, it's a village, I think it's got 1,200 permanent inhabitants. There are lots of people walking up to us and saying Merry Christmas and shaking hands, and that is quite nice.
Yes.
This kind of like, hello, I recognise you as part of this community, shake hands, Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, off we go. And that is quite pleasant. And that's what these kind of festivities, I feel, are about. So giving a gift to your neighbour, this is the time of year when you do that. It's a kind of a handshaking thing, isn't it? Hello, fellow human who lives in very close proximity to me. Merry festivities.
Just snap us out of our our own little worlds and remind us that, especially when it's like dark and gloomy, just to think about each other a bit. And I know I'm like, even if it's just like lip service,
Yeah.
It's, at least it's better than nothing.
I can't. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think of some analogies to your neighbour not taking presents. That's quite rude. Really?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's certainly rude. There's no doubt about that. Like, Jesus, come on. I did send some happy holidays cards.
Did you?
Well, not cards, but just a little picture I made over on my phone, just to basically say, just as a reason to just remind some people that I'm thinking about them, kind of thing. Yeah. More like on a business level than a sort of personal level. But even I had to go sort of abstract away any, because I think I don't even know what sort of religious anything. But I'm not even that into the, I don't really give a shit about the religious angle of it. I just like it as a celebration, something to do, some sparkly stuff to do while it's all dark outside.
Yeah, there is that. And I think one of the things that it's important about. I mean, that's another thing we did whilst we were in Brighton. We handmade all the restaurants Brighton Christmas cards. Because Reese, who does a lot of work with us, he's an artist, and he did a lino print, and then we lino printed 200 odd cards and sent them to all our clients and contacts and all that business. But that was quite a nice therapeutic thing to do, I thought. It's quite nice to take the time to make
it's just good to get you out of your... The trouble is, I've sort of optimised my Christmas present buying so much now. Literally, like, I was sort of like counting down to it, going, oh, I've got to do this. I've still got to do this. And then I literally got everything in one shop and it took me like 25 minutes and it was done. And then the rest of the Saturday, I just sat on the couch. So I think I need to like do something personal to just at least use the time a bit more next year.
Wow.
Because I don't know, sort of figure out a system. Remember that there's a shop that might be quite a good one. Get it done as quickly as possible. But that's not really the point, is it? The point is we're thinking about each other for a bit, for a change.
Well, I quite enjoyed our family Christmas did have a Secret Santa element, and it was £10 limit. It could either be something you already have, recycled, or from a charity shop, or found. But your point was you weren't allowed to buy something new. And so, and that's actually quite, because my daughter also had to be part of this. She was like, she's no good at present buying yet. Not especially when you're walking around a car boot sale or a charity shop. It's like, should we get this for? I was like, it was too much. But she tried to get us to buy a boxing punch bag thing. But we were like, no, people have got to hang that up in our house. There won't be room. But yeah, it was kind of but I found a couple of really nice things, and I got my sister's foster son. He got me a Oxfam Eco sandwich lunchbox thing, which is A, very pretty, and B, very... I wrapped all mine in canvas bags, and everyone's going, oh, I wonder who this is from. So I was like, I was responsible for wrapping 3 of them. But
people love buying presents for Sharon because she likes mushrooms, and so my wrapping paper was mushrooms, so there was no doubt as to who the presents were from.
Yeah,
mushroom wrapping paper. Here's the thing, I'm conscious as we're talking about Christmas that Annette and family bloody love Christmas. My cousin literally, I think her main job is putting on this Christmas show. Oh. So there's like months of work goes into this Christmas spectacular in Vancouver Island. And so they bloody love Christmas. And it's a mega ritual there. So like I was there like a couple of years ago, like 3 or 4. And it seems to not have quite the same atmosphere of doom that it does in my house. They just bloody love it. So I don't want Annette to think that I'm down on Christmas in any way, or I don't think it's a nice thing. But we're sort of like inventing our own approach to it all the time, really, because the sort of traditional one doesn't really work for me.
Well, I think that we have here. They do this. There's a village school play, and then all the different ages get involved, and then all the kids get a present from the town, from the village. So they all went to park yesterday, and my daughter's going, that little girl's got a doll just like the one I got. Yeah, there's a surprise. But there's something that was, I think that's very nice, and everywhere it's a bit more. It is about the community, not about the individual. I think still here. I think
nice.
And so those kind of ritual, if you're, like you say, it is nice to have something sparkly to do whilst it's dark outside. Something
that's what
fun.
I think is the crux of this. Like, just we put up some nice lights indoors and something that's green, like a tree indoors, so that we can feel like it's not so bleak. It's funny as well, like. Because I was complaining about my December, like losing a few days in December and just not feeling that productive. But like it's also when it is getting dark so early, like before electric light and like all that. I mean, even with candles, like you just had to go to sleep in the winter. Like you just had to sort of like wind down. And we are kind of like built with this. So it's just stop you getting depressed in the winter, really, these winter rituals.
Totally.
So it's weird that Australia has to do it in the summer, because it's like, well, what do you need Christmas for in the summer?
Wow.
Like,
and that's a whole different conversation about what these white folk with their Christmas rituals are doing in Australia in the first place, apart from running away from fire. It is important. It is really important, I think, all these. That's why, I've had a few people wishing me well on the winter solstice, which I think is also quite nice to acknowledge that. And I went paddleboarding yesterday, and the postman, who is in the summer works in a restaurant, he's like, he saw me come out of the sea and he went, well, we are moving towards spring after all, he said. So, it's justifying my sea visit.
I don't know why you would do this.
But somebody pointed out yesterday that because I didn't wear my wetsuit on properly because it's too hot. She's like, well, if you fall in, it's going to be cold. It's like, that is what we're trying not to do. The plan is to not fall in. I'm going to fall in one of these days. It's going to be really cold.
My dad told me about when he was in St. Petersburg in the winter, and apparently these Russian men are sort of like drinking a bottle of vodka and making a hole in the 6-inch thick ice to jump in and have a swim. It's just, you just sort of think, surely hypothermia is a thing. Like, how are these people not dying? Some of them must do.
I've been to Moscow in May and had because apparently a lot of drink snacks are in that part of the world because it's so cold, are very fat based. So you literally were eating. I mean, it was quite cold in the evening, but we were having a winter snack just so that my friends could demonstrate. So you have a glass of vodka and then basically a lump of pig fat. It's like smoked pig fat. It's like, eat that. And it's like, you just need, because by the time you've walked from your house to your, the front to your car, you've burnt it off. So the amount of calories people need to eat when it's that cold is quite phenomenal. But anyway, but I don't know how the vodka helps, to be honest. Isn't that faux keeping you warm?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Doesn't it just make you think you're warm
when you're
Maybe
actually?
It does something. Opens up some.
I don't know. Anyway,
it's not good to swim when drunk, anyway, is it? So I don't know what they're doing really.
No. So this is a rambly episode.
Yeah, fuck it. Christmas and
self-indulgent
neoliberalism.
Yeah, self-indulgent rambly episode.
We need Christmas to snap us out of our individualism to some extent, and that's really the biggest crime of neoliberalism.
It is
imposing this individualism on us and this fake meritocracy on us all, blaming us for everything that doesn't go right, and just kind of divide and conquer, really.
So I think that actually leads us very nicely into a potential, a New Year's resolution-y episode somewhere, but, a looking forward. It is this, how do we make the community thing? How do we bring back community, the sense of community, the sense that you are responsible for each other? Yeah,
and how do we, I'm going to frame that in another way that's a bit bleaker, which is, how do we bring back community when I don't even want to particularly go into a shop where I can't just buy stuff from a machine? I just don't like, I just want to self-checkout from a machine. And my neighbour's a knob end. And it's just kind of, you look at Nextdoor and it's like, these people are out of their minds. It's like, how do you have community when... but then, I've been listening to some Team Human stuff, and it sounded like eating together is a very good starting point for all this. Communal space, eating together is a really great way to kind of bring some of that community back. Even if it's like once a week, but you have a big kind of like meal with lots of people, and that's put on somewhere, and people come and they eat together. Because it's like a low commitment activity. You don't sort of like book it ahead of time or anything like that, but it gets people into a room together and actually kind of interacted with each other in a without it having to be too much of a thing. Maybe we should all go down the soup kitchens, down the food banks. Don't know. What's the community like at the food banks?
I don't know.
Never been to one.
Well, there's something you can do. You can volunteer at a food bank.
Go and get some food.
You can't go get food. You have to be referred, Michael. This is one of the misconceptions. So you just turn up and say, I want some food. No, somebody has to work out that you're actually skint and give you a referral and send you to the food bank. But you can go and volunteer at a food bank.
I'm already angry enough from just reading about the situation, let alone actually... It's just going to give you more stories to hate the Tories. More stories to hate the Tories. Another story.
Well, there is something about volunteering your time, I think, that is quite...
Yeah.
But it is... I mean, I don't do anything frontline like that, but it is rewarding.
I'm too grossed out by food stuff, though.
So don't go to a food bank. I can't imagine you. I mean, I have to say, the idea of you going and sitting down and doing communal eating, where I don't think that's the way that where your community lives. I mean, get a dog.
It's the modern. Oh God!
Go down the park. Get a baby. Get a dog. Get these people get these things in your life that force you to integrate. Otherwise, you end up with a. I mean. For every time, I'm not that good at making friends. I don't know.
We were trying to do your thing of like being in the same place every week.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that for, well, I don't know, like a few months. But I don't think it works in London.
Really?
I think there's just too many people. Everyone's in their own little
world.
And maybe we sort of have a little bit more of a rapport with some of the market people and the farmers market. But... in terms of actually like having a conversation with anyone, maybe like there's always, because we sort of started off going for coffee somewhere, but then we ended up making it about the farmers market, which was near where the coffee place we were going to go to was, and just going to that every week. But that's where there were always like the Lib Dems, like the people kind of getting petitions signed and things like that. So probably I need to just actually actively engage with those people to start with. And just sort of talk about getting involved in that somehow. Don't know. But it's like, here's the thing, like, we can talk about big plans about how we're going to do better for the world this year. But it's like, it's fucking miserable learning about all this stuff and seeing how much people suffer. And it's like, it's hard work and it's relentless and it's, I don't know, maybe it is rewarding just to feel like I'm sure it is to feel like you've helped someone. But it's like, for me, I just want to make cool stuff and do clever stuff on my computer. Why do I have to go out and talk to people?
Yeah, but maybe you don't. That's not your role in the community. That's the reality of it. A community's everybody, including the people that don't really like talking to people. And the people that are shy and the people who, are quite happy to sit on their computer next to the same person regularly and go, all right.
I like to be in a room with some people. And I I tell you what was good about Christmas was, even though it was really intense, like having so many people around and having to sort of like kind of be kind of switched up for a lot of the time, and like playing with a little girl who wants to run around the house and like play hide and seek 25 rounds, like when you're like and you're sort of having to pretend that you can't find her every time. Like all that, it was surprisingly exhausting. But just being able to retreat back to my little private space for an hour every so often and just bloody watch a YouTube video on my own and just have a little nap. It's just really necessary. But I do like, it's like you want that casual access to lots of people. I've definitely moved forward personally with that by sharing a studio, like instead of just having my own studio. So, I'm sort of incrementing my way towards something. This is rambly, but I'm worried about this. I'm worried that I'm in this youth club which is like a community project for kids. It's like there's some religious stuff behind it, but everything around it is getting redeveloped, like everything. And I'm starting to worry that there's going to be a mysterious case of arson.
Really?
And this building is going to get destroyed, and all my shit's going to get destroyed as well. And I'm starting to think, I would not be surprised if someone took a match to this place.
Wow.
Who's on the payroll of the property developers. It's not like I can really get involved in entertaining kids, but I am sort of help supporting this building at least.
Couldn't you do some making thing with them, like Arduino something, or...
Do you know what? Kids bloody love playing on my music stuff. So I've got this little headset and voice changing thing. I bloody love it. Like my Bruce's kids came round. Bloody love it. I did always imagine like getting involved a bit more, but you're also like, you don't want to advertise that you've got all this gear.
Well, one of the things I've thought about doing here is, because there's this international project for, you build an Arduino thing that measures air pollution. And, it's kind of an open source thing, data's public, But I figured, A, that would get me back into making things, and B, something then I could do with the slightly older kids in the village if they were interested, is to actually build things with them. I mean, look, another place where you can help, even if you can't do things with the children directly there, is volunteer in the library in the digital literacy thing. Just be there to help people who've come in to use the computers. Get on a rota for that, of people who just don't know how to fill in their, don't have an email address, don't know how to do something. Because it soon helps you. I think that would be enormously satisfying. I don't think you need to do loads of it.
Bit of free tech support once a week.
Yeah.
Just might not be a bad idea.
I bet your local library does something, and that's a great way to see
Don't even know
everybody.
If we've got a local library.
I'm sure you have. What
maps.google.
What council are you in?
Brent or Westminster.
Well, Westminster's got probably, because they're the richest one in the country. Richest council in the country with the highest incidence of mental health issues.
I know there's something on Harrow Road, but I don't know if it's an actual active library. It'd be good if that was the one. And sometimes I think, we've just got to sort of do what we're excited about and interested in, and the sort of politics will come through one way or another. That sort of thing will come through one way or another. But like, is this stuff nutritious enough? Like, it's just, I don't want to be like that ranty guy that's angry about the state of the world, because no one respects that person that much, I don't think. No one respects the person that kind of like goes out and canvasses. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right choice of words, but it doesn't change anyone's mind. It just makes you an other. Yeah. I think. So is this back to kind of meeting people where they are and just doing what you are interested in and hope that helps? I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, speaking of Arduino, I was on there. They shared my video on the official Arduino.
Did they now?
Giving me yes.
That's exciting.
So I'm totes in with those guys now.
On the subject of you can't control everything, you can't control the world, you can control you and your place in it. I think you just have to keep trying.
I can help more people with their computer, really, can't I? Do you know, I just thought what I've been enjoying recently is, I've been streaming programming and stuff on Twitch, and just, it's nice to see that some people seem to get something out of that, and that's just me showing, just not being, just kind of like putting something out there that, like the idea that I can benefit people by doing something I'm already doing is my ideal situation.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah. Rather than stepping out of what you... that's the idea. isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're just going to be like clumsy if you don't know the place that you're trying to interact with people. I do want to go to more like council meetings and things and speak out a bit more, but that means I've got to find out how to do that. And I just feel like no one's talking about the right thing.
My daughter asked me yesterday what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah. What did you say?
A gardener. Said I want to be a famous gardener. She's like, Mummy, and then she looked at me. She said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And then she looked at me and went, "When you're bigger."
Yeah. Okay.
When you're more grown up. Oh, the another thing she said to me the other day, "Mummy, are you not into ballet because you're fat?"
Oh my goodness.
Thanks, love.
Do you know what? Like, I had this moment yesterday. Like, I needed to. I've got this. I'm in this one of the little rooms in my parents' house, and on the back of the door is hanging this bright pink polka dot dressing gown. That kind of I need to come out of the shower and kind of go back to the room probably. And I was just having this like. If one of those kids sees me wearing that, I'm never going to hear the bloody end of it, am I? They're gonna be mean or something. So I was like scurrying back to the. Luckily, no one saw me, but I had to go from the bathroom in this. Not to mention that my pajamas are like high contrast black and white checks. So if I look like a flipping harlequin, it's quite fetching.
Oh dear.
We just got to focus on what we can control,
Yeah.
and what we can control is where we go, who we talk to.
Yeah.
I've never liked talking to strangers, really. I've just finished Malcolm Gladwell's book, I did it as the audio book, his Talking to Strangers, which is all about... it's the hook is sort of this woman that the policeman like pulls her over, and after kind of sort of being the cause of her pulling over, and then kind of calling her up for not indicating when she pulled over to get out of his way, kind of thing. So, and basically she ended up, he's like she's kind of getting stressed out by it. Lights a cigarette. He's like, "Can you put the cigarette out, please?" And she's just going, "What the hell is going on?" And then ends up getting arrested and basically committing suicide after 3 days being in prison.
Oh my God.
And basically, like a lot of stories about the role of various factors in how we kind of understand people when we meet them. So talking about this assumption of transparency, that people's outer, what they present on their faces actually represents what they're feeling inside, which works 99% of the time. This default to truth, which is if we meet someone, we tend to assume that they're telling the truth, and then putting that in the context of like the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme guy loads of people just... And talking about what it takes to expose a paedophile or expose a con man is actually just means going so far against the grain of what actually makes society work as society, where like the default to truth means once in a while you might get ripped off, but if everyone was constantly suspicious of everyone else, just society would collapse.
Yeah.
And kind of like drawing all that all back. So we do tend to, if everyone starts being suspicious and not believing what anyone else says, the human race disappears because we are built on that. And it's quite hard for us to, like someone literally saw a child being molested in the shower, and still, it's so hard to believe. You still didn't want to believe it. And then like parents literally being told by their child, like, "This doctor just made me feel uncomfortable." When they're in the room, people just don't want to see it because it would just blow up their world so much, so these people can just get away with stuff. But I guess kind of the conclusion was, if that's the price to pay for a society that works, it's better than the alternative, unfortunately. So interesting book, but also like it was he kept going on his podcast about how it's like it's got like podcast, it's an audio book with like podcast production values, so they've got the audio of the actual people being quoted and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So it's a good listen.
A good listen, an entertaining listen.
Let me talk about as well, like my dad got me another popular science book, obviously, because that's what he always does. And I, at this point, especially, I'm like, this stuff is too far away from what I can actually do anything about right now. So, like, I don't really want to get obsessed with the fundamental nature of the universe when there's so much to learn about. Because the book, I got him 4 books for his birthday. So I got him The Guilty Feminist, which is very, like, I started reading it. I haven't read that one, but I definitely kind of want my own copy because it's very nicely written. So a good one to Deborah. I got him Grayson Perry's Descent of Man book, which I thought was an interesting one. I got him Utopia for Realists, and I got him Donut Economics.
Cool.
And so that was my. I'm going to give my dad some stuff that I've been thinking about while he continues to think about science stuff. So they're my recommendations for this year if you haven't read them.
Nice one. No, that's good.
But I guess I'll be reporting back on this book. He kept sort of like going on about how great this book is that he's got me, so I'm looking forward to that. I also got my own copy of the Watchmen graphic novel, which is just, again, sucks you right in. It's a good one. Worth knowing the gist of before watching the TV series. The next episode, so we actually recorded this one after the one that is going to come out after it, I think. Because this one we sort of talked about Christmas quite a lot, so it'd be a bit weird if that came out halfway through January. But I think the next one's going to be a bit grimmer because we had to get a lot of stuff out of our system, which I still don't think we're close to doing.
No.
But we're getting serious about politics in the next episode. But for this one, let's just,
wish everyone
Happy New Year,
happy
peace to
New
all
Year.
people. Just hope hope your family time was instructive and enjoyable on some level. It seems like all the families have their problems, even the most enviable ones, the ones that seem so functional.
Yeah,
Everyone's got problems.
Everyone's got problems.
But I think overall, my Christmas time was one of the better ones this year. After some initial stumbles. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for listening.
If you bloody love the podcast, you can subscribe at grandpodcast.com and click the subscribe button, or in the app you're listening to, and then it'll auto download. And even if you don't listen to it, we'll feel good because our stats will go up.
Yes, that's true. That's definitely true. I like stats.
Where can people find you, Ivanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter and increasingly at Grand Podcast on Instagram.
I sometimes upload the occasional thing to that Instagram too, but mostly Ivanka's taken care of it. You can find me at michaelforestmusic.com, which links through to all my other stuff I'm doing. I'm streaming on Twitch. I'm releasing YouTube videos. I'm about to hopefully start a new series on that if you're interested in how to do fancy graphics in code. You can, if you're feeling generous, if you want to keep us going, because we've had a bit of a stumble recently, and I think it was very encouraging to get an email from a listener who appeared to place some value on what we're doing here, even if it's hard to feel like it has any value sometimes. I know it does for us, but it's always nice to hear from you if you do get something out of this. And if you want to go to the next level, there is a Patreon, there is a PayPal. Just have a look in the description.
That sounded very different. That ended downhill. I say it every week, but it's like, I think truthfully we need to intersperse some of these things. I know when you're listening.
Ad breaks.
We need to ad break for ourselves because I'm not sure. Once we stop talking, I don't know who listens to the very end. But anyway, on that note, it would be marvellous if you could also write us some reviews, star ratings, that sort of things. Tell your friends, subscribe your friends, give us some feedback, email us at hello@grandpodcast.com if you have any thoughts, any topics you think we should cover, any points you think we've missed. Help yourself. We're very happy to read any feedback. That's it, really.
Where do we help us? Yeah, where do we go from here, really? If you've got some thoughts, conservative victory wise, send us what you're thinking in terms of that, knowing what we've talked about on the podcast, because I'm a little bit still a little bit defeated on all of it, and it'd be good to find some hope and some optimism about the future, given that we're just committed to 5 years of bullshit.
We could do this.
Sorry. Yes. We're going to say goodbye. So, goodbye.
Bye.